Here's a come to order. Ashley, please call the roll.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Senator Berger. Brown 26. Here. Senator Huff. Senator Lewis. Senator McCreery. Senator Schwarber.
Here. We have a quorum. How many bills are here today? 3. We're going to hear 3 bills today. Witnesses, remember to fill out a form, and if you want your testimony to be in public record. First bill up, Senator Crawford, are you here? Yeah, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you Senate Bill 3 this morning. Senate Bill 3 will make some changes to the administration of contract license offices, fee offices, whatever you might want to call them. What the bill does is it will increase processing fees from $6 to $9 for vehicle registration, driver's license, permits. Also will allow a 2-year registration for $18. It adds a $9 trailer registration fee or $27 for a 3-year registration, or you also have the opportunity of paying $45 for a permanent trailer registration. The permanent fee was inadvertently left out when we changed fees a few years ago. The bill also includes a new provision that will prohibit current or former employees of the Department of Revenue for a period of 1 year for bidding on license offices due to inside information that they might have. In the bill, you're going to also see a $1 fee, and it's going to talk about the License Office Distribution Fund. In talks with the Department of Revenue, we have decided to pull that part of the bill out. So that's like number 9 on page 5. From there to the end of the bill, that will be stricken. And the bill actually does one other thing. It would allow the Department of Revenue to extend contracts for up to 5 years. If you have license bureaus that are performing at a very high level, they can already pull contracts back if they're not doing the correct job. This will allow them to maybe reward those that are doing an exceptional job. And just to put a couple things into perspective, I don't like fees. Nobody likes fee increases, things like that. This is only the second time since 1999 that these fees will have been adjusted. And just to put things into perspective, the minimum wage in 1999 was $5.15. In 2019, which was the other time we raised fees, it was $8.60. Today, we're at $13.75, and that is set to continue to go up. Also, with inflation costs, lease costs, and rents, the market is very tough out there. And, coming from a small rural area, my motivation is this, and I said this last year, I would rather pay $3 more for a license than have to drive 45 minutes to Springfield to get that done and take half a day to do it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have at least a couple of witnesses behind me that can probably fill in some better blanks than I can as well.
Are there any questions for Senator Crawford? Senator Schwarber.
Not so much a question, but I want the committee to know. I want to thank you for your punctuality. I know you and I were in here.
We were, yes, at 10 o'clock,
early.
right on the dot.
We were. I think you were here 10 minutes beforehand, so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Senator.
I don't care what your schedule says. This committee doesn't start till I get here.
Your point is well taken.
Are there any other, Senator Berger?
Just a comment, one thing, everybody's kind of moving to online, but a lot of people my age or older or even close to my age don't want to do things online. They still want to go to the license bureau. So I think it's vital, especially in rural communities, that we keep our license bureaus open.
I agree. And with the broadband issue, until we, get that spread throughout the state, that's going to be an issue as well. And, we all know these offices are going to morph into something different, at some point, but that day is not today.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Is any witnesses testify in favor of this bill? Yep.
Can y'all hear me? Senator Brown, I appreciate your time. Senator Lewis, Senator Berger, Senator Schroll, Senator Brown. I'm from Sykeston, Missouri, a rural area, 18,000. I run several different licensing bureaus. And we're facing a real problem right now because we got our last fee increase in 19, and we really appreciated that. But then COVID hit us. I was paying $12 an hour for my employees. I'm paying anywhere from $18 to $24 an hour now. With this fee increase, I'm not planning on just pocketing the money because I lose employees to dealerships and stuff every day. So my plans are, if I can get this fee increase, I've already priced it. I want to buy health insurance for them and also give them more money to make a good living, because it's just hard to make it, as everybody knows, on $18 an hour now, because you can't hardly go out to McDonald's anymore. They don't even have a dollar menu. They took it away from us. But if I have to close one of my smaller offices, people are going to have to drive anywhere from 35 to 45 miles to get their license plates. And with this fee increase, we can't operate efficiently. And hopefully, this will be the last time that I have to come back to you guys and ask you. But like I said, we'd really appreciate whatever you can do for us. And I'm open to any questions.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, I didn't do it. I'm
No.
sorry. Terry Cole.
All right, thank you. Any questions for witness? All right, thank you. Are there any other witnesses to testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready. Thank you for your testimony.
I appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you, Senator. I'm not as off the cuff as Terry. I have a prepared statement. But ladies and gentlemen of the committee, thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Andy Zechthy. I represent York Management Group. I am here as both a proud Missourian and the operator of several small license offices in our state. These offices, small, locally owned businesses, are often overlooked in public discourse. Yet they serve a vital role ensuring that our citizens can access critical government services in a convenient, reliable manner. One observation that I have is we have entrusted these small offices with essential responsibilities, but we have required them to work under conditions that have hardly changed in 3 decades. As Terry mentioned, we had a fee increase in 2019, and the one prior to that was in 1999, I believe. So in 26 years, we've adjusted these fees twice. Only once in the past 26 years, as I mentioned, have license offices seen adjustment to the fee structure that sustains them. This single fee increase, long ago, has proven inadequate in the face of today's economic realities. Considered the importance of fairness, which is a cornerstone of a stable social system, when we ask small, locally owned businesses to shoulder ever-increasing burdens, rising wages, operating expenses, the burdens of inflation, without adjusting their compensation. In any meaningful way, we risk fostering a sense of disillusionment and despair. This isn't merely a financial problem, it's a moral one. We undermine our social contracts when the economic framework lags so drastically behind the realities that we must contend with. One might argue that raising fees for such public services is an inconvenience, and it is. And I'm sorry that I have to be here today. I'm hopeful that the third time's the charm, but here we are. The profound necessity of maintaining these small businesses, the very ones that anchor our towns and cities, offering not just services but also opportunities for local employment and community connection. Failing to act on a fee adjustment jeopardizes more than just a line on a budget. It places the viability of these businesses and the livelihoods of real people at significant risk. When I myself and my partners have operated many license offices in the state, 2 of which We we struggled to maintain and subsequently effectively didn't renew our contracts. One of those was in Cuba, Missouri. We struggled to pay employees a competitive wage and meet the obligations that inflation imposes. It sets off a chain of detrimental effects. Morale suffers, staff turnover increases, service quality can drop. Over time, the very reliability that our neighbors have come to expect from these offices is eroded. And if we allow that situation to continue unabated, we could witness a tragic paradox. The local presence we champion in a principle way slowly vanishes in practice, replaced by more impersonal, more distant solutions. In closing, I urge you not merely to consider this issue as a mundane matter of cents and dollars. Reflect on the broader impact. If our legislative framework fails to adapt, we risk losing the local offices that we depend on for everyday tasks, license renewals, registrations, official documentation, and more. And we must ask ourselves, what kind of message does this send about our commitment to community-oriented governance? Thank you for your time, your courtesy, and your thoughtful attention to this pressing matter. I encourage you to support a judicious, reasonable, and necessary fee increase for Missouri license offices. By doing so, we affirm our shared commitment to the stability, growth, and resilience of our communities.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this witness? Senator Berger.
Thank you for being here. What's the smallest, or the population of the smallest community you have a fee office in?
I believe it's roughly around 20,000 that we've had in the past.
If that one closed, what would be the next closest one if that one had to close?
The logistical matter is an important one. I'm glad you brought that up. Cuba, Missouri, for instance, that's a real one. You would have to drive 40, 50 miles to the nearest one. And so for the constituents of that community, it's rather inconvenient and costly.
How many fee offices do you have, or license offices do you have?
We operate 7 of them in the state of Missouri.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none. Thank you. Are there any other witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward. Any witnesses testifying in opposition to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. Acdinoff, State Public Advocate. I'm opposed to SB3 as I was last year and the year before. I feel that a $3 fee increase is just not necessary nor warranted, nor do the citizens of Missouri need another fee increase in our trying times, in inflation, and when 53% of all income to any family in Missouri, that there's a payout of some type of fee or tax at the federal, state, county, city, and special taxing district. So basically, Missourians are working for the government is not working for Missourians. I agree with the 1-year prohibition from any employee of the Department of Revenue from bidding on a fee license office. That just makes common sense. Just like the legislature, you can't be a lobbyist for a 1-year period after you leave office or term limited. The $1 fee for the special fund is just ridiculous. I'm opposed to that. I understand that the sponsors removed that from the bill. It seems like a special slush fund to help somebody out that we just don't know all the facts. In O'Fallon, we had very poor service the last 2 years of the fee office located on Missouri Highway K in the Midtown O'Fallon area. And now it's been taken over by a new entity, and there's been excellent service, a huge turnaround in the last 6 months. They pay their employees the current livable wages along with benefits, and they seem to still be making a profit at that center. As I said, taxes are getting out of control, and enough is enough for Missourians. I'm in favor of the offices being owned by the state of Missouri and the State Department of Revenue rather than a profit business making 30 to 35%. Prime example is Public Water District Number 2 of St. Charles County. They function out to Woodard and Kern, a consultant firm, to run the field crews or the day-to-day operations. Well, that's why Public Water District Number 2 is the highest ratepayers in the state of Missouri for water service, because they're making a profit of 37% on the backs of rate users. This used to be political patronage favors from whoever was sitting as governor. Now it's a bid system, and I would like to see that being brought into House and run by the State Department of Revenue. I ask that this committee defeat any fee increases. Now is not the time. It's not warranted. The fee office in O'Fallon is making it pay their employees a salary, and they're still making a profit. For those reasons, I oppose SB3.
Are there any questions for a witness? Senator Berger.
Thank you for being here. You said they pay their current livable wage in O'Fallon. What is a current livable wage in O'Fallon?
I don't know. It's a private entity, so they don't have to have disclosure. So if the person wasn't here to testify of exactly what he pays his employees, but we heard from the one fee office that he pays his employees $18 an hour, I would assume that the O'Fallon person who holds that fee office pays a minimum of $18 an hour.
I'd like to know that number because, you know, when you say it paying the current livable wage, we need to know what that number is other than just assume what it may be.
Yeah, because it's a privately owned, they wouldn't be bound by law or required to do that. It would have to be a voluntary issue.
So I would think that statement's really not correct then, honestly,
What statement is that?
that they pay current livable wage.
From what I understand, the owner, I had some conversations that they're bringing in enough revenue that substantiates a profit to keep the doors open.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the witness? Okay. Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testifying in opposition to the bill? Are there any witnesses testify for informational purposes only? Senator Crawford, do you have any closing comments?
No, just thanks for the opportunity.
Well, you're welcome. All right, next up we have Senate Bill 7. Senator Bernskatter, whenever you're ready.
Senate Bill 7, the problem this legislation attempt to fix is Missouri has many high-functioning ambulance districts, but they also have some that are underperforming, whether it be from typically it's financial struggles in the small rural ambulance services. And so then when they're struggling, sometimes they have to depend on the neighboring services, and then it puts a strain on the neighboring services. And so the EMS leaders have had 2 years discussion about what to do about this, and provision in the bill requires continuing education for ambulance districts board members. The Ambulance Association already provides live and virtual education for board members, requires audits of ambulance districts every 3 years, and requires participation with the regional EMS committees. The Department of Health and Senior Services shall promulgate rules to require ambulance districts to participate to increase coordination between the districts. In case something does happen, they're coordinated. And this legislation is just about ensuring quality services are available to the entire state. If you have a healthcare crisis, they should know that the ambulance district will be there to serve them. And this bill is a big step forward in ensuring that outcome. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Senator. Are there any questions for Senator Bernskatter? Go ahead.
Morning, Senator. So I heard this bill last year, or maybe a couple years ago, over on the other side of the building, and ambulance districts aren't something that impacts my constituents and community in Kansas City. Is that correct?
I don't know. It's your community.
Okay, yeah, well, it is. That's it. So, I learned a lot, but just refresh my memory. So since it doesn't impact my community, is this something that the communities that do have ambulance districts are asking for?
If you're living in a small rural community and your ambulance district shuts down for some reason, yes, then you are impacted by this and asking to make sure we have, coordination, like it's happened. Some of the people from the ambulance districts can tell you, but in ambulance, like they don't have any money and they just shut down, and then they call, the county or sheriff or somebody and say, hey, we need an ambulance, and they have to coordinate with a neighboring ambulance district to get that person to the hospital.
Yep. And I agree. We
Right.
call 911 when we got the ambulance to show up, and
Yeah.
I appreciate the bill. I was just trying to refresh a little bit about the different districts. So,
Okay.
it
Yeah, I'm
was-
sure somebody else could know more about it, but, and, you know, I have heard instances where they've, you know, just shut down and they've had to call on the neighbors to help them out.
All right.
And this would help coordinate between the neighbors.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Senator Bernskader? Right. Seeing none, are there any witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Members of the committee, my name is Brent Hemphill. I'm a registered lobbyist with the Missouri Ambulance Association. As you can see, I have a number of my board members here who will come up and testify. This was really an interesting dynamic that occurred last year. A representative who represented Reynolds County called and said, our ambulance district is wanting to resign their ambulance, their elected duty, and the ambulance director has gone missing. And so literally they woke up one day and didn't have anybody willing to provide ambulance service in Reynolds County. Fortunately, you have a number of folks behind me who are true heroes that we got a quick call together. She called me, we got a quick call together, and we had neighboring counties that stepped in to provide necessary mutual aid to get them through their troubled period. Then they worked with the county commission to come up with, and the ambulance district from that area, and so they partnered with Washington County, who runs the ambulance service in that area. This bill was the impetus for that. We have some ambulance districts that probably were elected, created, that don't have the necessary framework to run EMS, and when you see ambulances running around, you expect them to be there in a quick response with having good, adequate staff able to do their job. There are some pockets of our state that struggle at that. And so this is an attempt for us in the ambulance industry to clean our own house and get a basic level of care to all of our districts. And so it requires training. It requires a multitude of other things. What we don't want is a ambulance district to rely on mutual aid. Mutual aid is essentially calling your neighbor saying, hey, we're short-staffed. We need you to come over and run our services. Well, that's fine in short terms or if there is a huge crisis, but it is not how you operate your business, because what you're doing is then depleting the resources from that mutual aid district that sent those services. So I want to thank Senator Bernskader for filing this. He actually had a district, as I recall, I think META, which is a volunteer-based ambulance service, had something similar happen. Osage Ambulance came in and provides the service now to that particular area. So that is the essence of the bill. Senator Lewis, you are represented by KC Fire. They run all the ambulance service in your area for all that multi-county areas. Would not impact you in any way, shape, or form. This is only ambulance districts licensed under Chapter 190. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for a witness? All right, seeing none. Are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Matt Bowen, Chief of Lynn County Ambulance. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate Senator Bernskader filing this. And quality EMS service is something that I've dedicated my life to, and I'm very passionate about. And I hope to do it till the day I die. And two of the main things that we are asking for in this bill that I'm very passionate about is transparency and accountability, and also training. We put a lot of responsibility on our administrators and our directors, the board of directors, and we need them to be trained and aware of the responsibility that they carry. There's been several high-profile instances in the news where there's been misappropriation of funds and embezzlement, things like that, and ambulance districts that have completely failed. And to Senator Lewis's point, which I adore your area, by the way, but if the surrounding districts do fail, it can have an impact on you, because then potentially your services would be called in to cover those areas. And we also transport a great deal of patients to your hospitals. St. Luke's is a big system that is right in the center of my transport area. So if we have a failure of that, then it can adversely impact your area as well. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us your time today. My name's Kat Probst. I'm the chief at Adair County Ambulance District, which is in northeast Missouri, so I'm opposite the Kansas City side. I'm also the immediate past president to the Ambulance Association, and one that originally had to assist in getting this bill through. And that was because I was the phone call that Brett made when Reynolds County became in a desperate situation. And that was something that we never wanted to see again across our state. Unexpectedly, we've seen it again repeatedly in the last several years as staffing shortages have become significant when it comes to EMS providers. Wages are hard and difficult to keep up with, and training is even harder. When you already have crews that are working 24 to 48 to 96 hours straight, asking them to come back and train some more becomes a situation that is difficult to do as an administrator. We want the best of the best. We want to police our own, and we want to make sure that the opportunities exist to put good providers. Our hope is that we can provide support with this bill, that we can go to the districts that we know surround us that have much smaller incomes and much smaller capacity and provide them with the necessary means to do the things that we know are most important in delivering care in the field. We have several services that surround us in Adair County that have been through this. They lost an administrator. They were not staffing their ambulances daily, so they were relying on surrounding counties to cover their county maybe 24 or 48 hours at a time, and they were not notifying us of that. Suddenly we'll go on call for them and be expected not only to cover our own service area, but go into their service areas. These are difficult things to do when you're already short-staffed. We want to make it better. We understand that there are constituents out and there are voters that have approved ambulance districts, but we want them to know where the districts stand, and we want to be able to provide support. And that's why this becomes very important. So we hope that the education that's offered in this bill and the support for those districts brings our regions together to deliver a much higher level of care.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Members of the committee, thank you for your time today. My name is John Barkley. I'm the current Missouri Ambulance Association president, and I'm also the chief of EMS from NTA in Bethany, Missouri. We're a small ambulance service similar to Matt, where we have 2 trucks on duty 24/7, and we're facing similar situations that my colleagues have outlined for you. So if we have 1 truck who services a critical access hospital that does a transfer down to your area from Bethany, that's a turnaround time of at least 3 hours, and that leaves us with 1 truck for our district to cover the emergency calls in that area. If we have to go out of district into another district to cover those, then that's another issue that we have to face. Do we go to that district because there's actually an emergency happening and rely on mutual aid to come from another district to cover ours? You know, those dilemmas are happening every day. So one of the things that I don't want to repeat all the comments that we've talked about here already this morning. So obviously those are very, very valid. One of the things that this bill does is hopefully prevent some of this. And that's what we're into. We're about prevention. We're about moving forward so that these things don't happen in the future. Yes, we've got horror stories that have happened, but a lot of these small services are doing their very best to try and make things work, but they don't have the experience. And so they have somebody that maybe is homegrown there, and because they're the last man standing, somebody says, "Oh, you're in charge." And so that person goes, and I don't know how many calls we've all had from those people that say, "Hey, they just put me in charge of this, in charge of tax funds, in charge of people to do an administrative position that I'm a paramedic. I'm not an administrator, but I'm the only one here. And so how do I pay payroll taxes? How do I file Medicare billing? We had one district that didn't file Medicare billing for their district for 2 years because they didn't know how to. So this is where we want to come in and have those resources available, and this provides that. It gives us a chance for the Missouri Ambulance Association to provide education. And sometimes you have to bring the horse to the water a little bit at least and say, hey, these are the basics that you have to have. It's not asking for a lot. We're talking about 40 hours. So our very first certification in EMS is 40-hour class. It's called the First Responder Certification. And so as an administrator, if you're there, there's a 40-hour class. It's not a huge commitment, but it gives you the basics of what you maybe need to know. Obviously, there's much more above that. But this is the kind of thing we want to see. We want to identify these people who might be in charge so that we can go and say, hey, you have resources to you, so you can't fail. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions for the witness? Senator Lewis.
Good morning. I don't know who else is going to testify after
okay.
you, but wanted to just acknowledge you all as first responders and thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none, are there any other witnesses to testify in favor of the bill?
Thanks, Senator. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Trent Ford. I'm a registered lobbyist for the Ambulance District Association of Missouri, here in favor of the bill. We'd like to go on record. I think you've heard enough.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Are there any witnesses testifying in opposition to the bill? Better not be, right? Well, make it quick, Arnie. We got another bill to hear.
That wasn't very nice, Mr. Chairman. I'm just like any other person, a lobbyist, should be treated with respect and dignity. Thank you very much, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C., ACD State Public Advocate, and I'm opposed to SB7. These requirements are dumbing down the ambulance service and paramedics throughout our state, in my opinion. This bill needs a great deal of work and amendments. We need quality paramedic service and quality ambulance service. To modify the law for 3 hours of training each term of a 3-year term of an ambulance director or forfeiture of their office, that's just ridiculous for 3 hours. I think they need more training, more training to our paramedics to limit liability and deliver good quality service. An audit every 3 years is just insane. GAP is known as Government Accounting Principles, and I'm sure our state auditor would testify and be an advocate for every year an annual audit to be performed to make sure that nobody's running away with the store or taking all the money or misappropriating the money. So I am calling for an audit annually of any ambulance district in the state of Missouri, regardless of size. That's just good accounting principles and good responsible management. In my opinion, this law is dumbing down the ambulance Chapter 190 clause, or Chapter 190 state statute. There's lacking regulation and minimum requirements of ambulance districts. There are companion House bills. House Bill 640 has the same language. House Bill 724 has the same language. Senate Bill 206 has the same language but added responsibilities. In my opinion, this bill goes backwards instead of forward. We're in 2025. We're not in the 1800s. And so I am asking the committee to vote down SB7.
Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Are there any other witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Please come forward. Opposition. Are there any witnesses testify for informational purposes only? Senator Burns, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I'm going to give the gavel to Senator Berger. I got to present my bill.
Senator Brown to introduce Senate Bill 107. Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Justin Brown representing the 16th Senatorial District. Today I'm here to present Senate Bill 107. Senate Bill 107 will provide what is known as peer review protection for the quality improvement discussions of paramedics and EMTs. Missouri law has long provided protection from discovery of quality improvement discussions by doctors, nurses, and others, but Missouri law does not include paramedics, EMTs, and physician's assistants. This has led to a lack of discussions within ambulance services about calls where mistakes are made or when services could have been provided in a better manner. Senate Bill 107 will allow our emergency medical services the same opportunity we afford to doctors, nurses, and hospitals to engage in discussions that are protected from discovery for the benefit of improving these critical emergency services. I appreciate the hearing today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the senator? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in support of?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Hemphill again on behalf of the Missouri Ambulance Association. I'm not going to speak very long about this issue, but it's been around for a very, very, very long time. Paramedics and EMTs are not allowed to go into a room and talk about improving healthcare protocols because of the fear of having that open. This does not prevent any plaintiff's bar, any victim, to have access to those trip tickets. They can still depose the individual. The lawsuit can still proceed. All this does is allow, and you will have Dr. Koffenauer from the university, who's a medical director up there at the trauma center, explain why this is so important for the continuity of care to improve healthcare outcomes from the pre-hospital service side to what happens inside the hospital. There needs to be a cohesive discussion to improve those healthcare outcomes. That is all this bill does. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Anyone else to testify in support of?
Good morning, Chairman Brown, the rest of the members of the committee. So my name is Jeffrey Kokenauer. I am the trauma medical director at Mizzou. I started my career as an EMT in 1993 while in high school. Continued to do that up in Kansas City during medical school. So I think I've a little bit of a unique position to see this from both sides. I would argue that the Chapter 190 already requires that our EMS folks participate in some sort of performance improvement or quality improvement initiative. So we've already got the requirement, but whether it's a perceived or a real legal issue, there are many services in my area, for instance, that aren't interested or their attorneys have told them, we don't want you to necessarily participate in a collaborative PI review between the hospital and the EMS services, right, where there are physicians and nurses present that are covered, but EMS providers that are not. The other practical example is I oversee our 4 helicopters, and I theoretically have flight nurses in a room to discuss a case. I also have flight paramedics in the room, some of which are covered, some of which are not. So it's a delicate tap dance about being able to have an open, honest, and non-punitive discussion when things don't go well or things don't go as planned. I tell our residents every day that we learn much more from the cases that don't go correctly than we do from the ones that do go smoothly. So I think this is a fairly targeted, very responsible and common sense fix to this. I don't know a lot about how things work down here, but in the last 4 years that I've come up here and testified for this bill, I know that the usual argument from the trial attorneys is somewhere along the line of can't necessarily produce the medical record or things that are used within that peer review conversation. And as Brent stated, that is specifically addressed in subsection 4 of 537.035. If it is still discoverable or obtainable from an original source, i.e. the medical record, then it is still obtainable like always. So I do not believe with any way, shape, or form that this would harm a patient or a family that's trying to seek relief because of some act of negligence. In my career, I've been involved in 2 legal matters. They were vigorously peer-reviewed, and the medical record and everything about that case was subpoenaed, and the process went along just as it should. So I think, again, a very common sense and overdue fix to facilitate improvement in the care that we provide. And lastly, my trauma center is named after Dr. Mitchell, who served his entire 40-year career at Mizzou, probably the first ambulance in the country, a lot of people would argue, in the spring of '69. Dr. Mitchell, before he died, he always told us, you keep the patient at the center of everything you do. I think that's exactly what this bill does. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, anyone else to testify in favor of?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Mr. Chairman, Jacob Scott with the Missouri State Medical Association and the Missouri Osteopathic Physicians, just here in support of the bill. This is an important tool that physicians have been able to utilize, as was previously mentioned, and we just want to be supportive of allowing this same process to be used by other medical professionals. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, anyone else in support of?
For the record, my name is Matt Bowen, Chief of Lynn County Ambulance. I also represent the Board of Directors for the Missouri Ambulance Association. I'm very in favor of this bill, and as I stated earlier in my previous testimony, I am passionate about quality EMS care. And this is the center of what this bill does for us. And really the only reason we're having this discussion, and we've had it, as Dr. Kovenauer put, for over 50 years, is because when the act was originally put into place, physicians, assistants, and EMTs and paramedics didn't exist. So 190 was enacted after the Peer Review Act was put into place in the early 70s. So we just need to fix this error and clean it up, with the focus being quality EMS care.
Any questions for this witness? Anyone else to testify in support of?
Good morning, Katie Campbell here on behalf of the Missouri Academy of Physician Assistants, the Fire Service Alliance, the Missouri College of Emergency Physicians, and Air Evac. I think all the previous witnesses did a great job kind of highlighting specifically the EMS portion of it, and so I'll just highlight the physician assistant portion. Other of their colleagues can currently participate in these peer review committees, and so we even had a story of a physician assistant at a hospital who really wanted to serve on her peer review committee, and she was unable to because the law doesn't provide the same, outline the same coverage for her as it does for her colleagues. And so we just really love to see this bill move forward. Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Anyone else in support of?
Thanks, bud. Once again, Mr. Chairman, Trent Ford, registered lobbyist for the Ambulance District Association of Missouri. I'd like to go on record in support. I don't think there's anything else to add.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Anyone else to testify in support of?
Yeah, my name is Mark Alexander. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri State Advisory Council on Emergency Medical Services. We support this bill and worked on it for a number of years.
Any questions for this witness? Anyone else to testify in support of?
Once again, committee, thank you for your time. John Barkley, President, MAA Association, Chief of NTA Ambulance in Bethany. I just want to echo exactly what my peers have said, but I also want to tie this back a little bit to the last bill and just say they go hand in hand. Part of the horror stories, you might say, or part of the thing we're trying to fix is the stigma that if we're doing a bad job, we want to hide it in any way, shape, or form. Like my colleague said, we want transparency. And so if they don't know and they don't have the experience as to what a QA and a QI program looks like to build quality service within your organization, then this bill helps us and takes that out of the closet and into the light so that we can help those services that have been struggle with that.
Any questions for this witness? Thank you. Anyone else to testify in support of?
Good morning again. Kat Probst, Adair County Ambulance and immediate past president of the Ambulance Association. I just want to say that I also support the bill in regards to everything that my colleagues have said. I also serve as the chairman of the Central Region EMS Committee. There's 6 regions within the state. Dr. Kokenauer is our medical director over our region, and for the last 10 years, we have diligently tried to bring together the ability for EMS and the hospitals to consult, and this is the reason we have not been able to, as a region, make sure that our patients are getting delivered under time-critical diagnosis to the appropriate facilities. And so this bill really becomes important in our ability to serve the most critical patients, our strokes, STEMIs, and traumas.
Okay. Have you filled out a witness form?
I have. I did it earlier. I apologize.
Okay. Is any questions for this witness? Thank you. Anyone else to testify in support of?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Adam Rapert on behalf of Melville Fire Protection District. Just want to go on record in support.
Thank you. Anyone question this witness? Anyone else in support of?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate, and for all of my testimony this morning, I filled on the electronic online forms, so that's why I haven't submitted the paper. I'm in support of SB107 for peer review. I believe in paramedics and people in the emergency community learning from their calls, learning from certain situations, and try to be better and make improvements. This limits liability exposure, provides for improvements, and to get better at their craft. The St. Charles County Ambulance District has a full-time medical director who's a full-time physician who works with the people out in the field, and we also have a full-time quality assurance manager, and they critique all the calls and have peer review. This has been going on for at least the last decade. So I'd like to see this go throughout the state. It just makes sense. Quality insurance is the betterment of the service of the community. That's a good thing. And so this is common sense legislation, and I am totally in favor of SB 107.
Any questions for this witness? Thank you. Anyone else in favor of? Now those in opposition to?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Senators. My name is Mike Campbell. I'm a trial attorney in Columbia, Missouri. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys in opposition to this bill. And the reason why is because this bill is about accountability and transparency. We've heard about that in previous testimony. It's about a patient's right to know, a patient's right to access information about what went wrong or what went right in their care. We're not picking on EMS. We actually think the entirety of peer review is wrong because, again, it is about a patient's right to know about what went wrong and what went right in their care. And I would just want to give you a practical example. If someone comes into my office, I do medical negligence cases. Someone comes into my office and says that they have a medical negligence case. I'm not going to just take that case. In fact, I take very, very few medical negligence cases. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them I'm going to look into it, I'm going to vet it, and I'm going to see what I can find and then get back to them. If I have information to suggest that an independent peer review committee looked at a doctor or a medical provider's care and determined that they didn't do anything wrong, then I'm probably not going to take that case. That's strong information and evidence that actually the providers, not just the provider who provided the care, but providers who were supervising that provider's care, determined that there was no negligence. It's very unlikely I'm going to take that case. These cases are difficult enough as they are. If, however, they look at it and they determine that there is something that went wrong, something that fell through the cracks, someone was hurt, why shouldn't that patient be entitled to that information? If I was harmed, or if a family member was harmed, or if any of the committee members were harmed as a result of healthcare provider conduct, why wouldn't we be entitled to that information? It's about accountability and it's about transparency. The other thing, too, that I have concerns about, and I know that Dr. Kokenauer spoke about this bill can be and has been interpreted broadly to allow defense lawyers to object on the basis of peer review and not turn over medical records. If you look at the actual act itself that they're trying to expand, 19245, It does say in the first part, any medical records obtained by the department shall be used only for the purposes of implementing the provisions, and the names, hospitals, physicians, and patients shall not be released by the department or members of review teams. Read in conjunction with subsection 4, we're very concerned that additional medical records that I need in my practice, for example, I do nursing home abuse cases, nursing home residents' rights cases, and sometimes the most objective information I get is from EMS records, from these individuals going into a nursing home, being boots on the ground and seeing things and putting in the records. Smells of urine, smells of feces, found the resident on the floor, where we get the nursing home records and they're squeaky clean. My concern would be is that if this is expanded, those records could unfortunately be undiscoverable in a case where resident right has been violated. And for those reasons, we oppose this bill.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Senator Shore.
Thank you for coming today. I didn't consider that take on this bill. When it comes to transparency, I think most on this committee, probably all on this committee, want transparency when it comes to our loved ones, making sure they get the care that they should be getting in times of emergency or not. Do you have any recommendations on maybe tweaking this bill to allow for attorneys like yourself to dig in and get these records and not handcuffed by any type of peer review? Is there any recommendation on maybe an amendment to this?
Well, look, we would be happy to work with the bill sponsor as always with any type of legislation like this. And my understanding, Senator, is that you are an attorney yourself. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I just want to make sure that I use an example here. We're both attorneys. If a client makes a claim against me as a lawyer, I can't meet with my law partner with the client's file and say, this is peer review, this is peer review, this is peer review. We're not going to give that file to the client. The client's file belongs to the client.
Right.
Yeah. And so to answer your question directly on, we're glad to work with the bill sponsor, certainly, to talk about amendments. Definitely.
Offhand, do you have any recommendation on an approach to address those concerns?
I don't, not off the top of my head. We would actually, as an association, want to meet with the bill sponsor, and we're glad to do that.
Now, when it comes to peer review, I know it's been brought up in different conversations that with medical professionals, peer review is a little bit different. Can you expand on that statement? I've heard it reiterated time and time again that peer review because there's so many different nuances in the medical field.
Yeah, I understand the principle of we want to make sure that we do some sort of quality insurance and quality improvement to make sure that we get this right in the future. We want to improve healthcare outcomes, and I believe in all of the medical providers' testimony today that they came forward and said, look, this is something that we want to try to do to improve outcomes. I believe them. I believe that I have a high regard. Many members of my family are involved in the medical profession. We're currently dealing with a medical crisis right now where I'm at the hospital for the past month. We love our providers. The issue is that if something goes wrong, we should be able to figure out what went wrong and determine whether or not that's something that we want to pursue. What I can say is that oftentimes when someone, I don't know about what type of practice you have, Senator, but when someone comes into my office and they say something to the effect of, I think something went wrong and they're just not telling me. What I found is that if someone were to reach out to the client and say, you know what, we made a mistake and we're going to own it and we're going to be accountable for it and we're not going to try to hide it from you, 9 times out of 10, that person's not coming to my office.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions for this witness? Anyone else to testify in opposition to?
Good morning. My name is Ryan Frazier, and I'm also an attorney. I practice in Springfield, Missouri, and my practice does not focus on medical malpractice or the healthcare industry, but I'm here to oppose the expansion of the Missouri peer review statute and really the statute in general. I echo all of the points that Mr. Campbell pointed out, and I'm not here to echo those points. I'm just going to simply provide an example of how the peer review statute can have unintended consequences. I represent victims of sexual abuse, and unfortunately, that can happen in the healthcare setting. On multiple occasions, I've ran into peer review objections for sexual abuse lawsuits against healthcare systems that go far beyond the peer review committee protections. For an example, I have here peer review and quality assurance objections for an incident report that's dated the day of the assault. I have objections for 44 interviews that were done within days of the assault that were refused to be produced because of peer review. I have investigative documents prepared by employees during the investigation into the sexual assault allegations made by the plaintiff. So this is just an example, and this isn't a single case. This has happened in multiple cases where healthcare facilities are using the peer review statute more broadly than I think it was intended. So I think that we should prioritize patient safety and transparency and the integrity of our healthcare system over unnecessary secrecy and shielding of information. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition to? Anyone to testify for informational purposes only? Senator Brown, any closing comments?
No, but thank you, members of the committee, for sitting here and allowing me to present this bill.
With no further business coming before the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Adjourned.